We're back for another breakdown of predictions video. This week, it's Dana White Contender Series 2023 Week 5. And we're coming off a pretty good week last week in terms of predictions. We went 4 for 5, and that was a good bounce back from 2 weeks ago when we went 0 for 5. We almost came back with a 5 for 5 performance. Not quite, but did pretty well. Picked a couple underdogs. So we're going to be looking for similar performance this week in terms of predictions and to try to make some money tomorrow. And like always, if you want access to the bets for Dana White Contender Series, the bets for other promotions, and the bets for UFC, along with additional content, and on top of that, you're supporting the channel, keeping it going, go to patreon.com/MAPredictionGuru. I am going to be doing a free trial this week for the pay-per-view, so if you go over there this week and you sign up for any of the 3 tiers, it is going to be free for 30 days. So you will have access for 1 month for free, and you could check it out, see if it's for you, and see if you can win some money on some bets. So risk-free, go over there, patreon.com/MAPredictionGuru. I will probably have it by the end of this video, but if I don't, just check again on Tuesday morning, and all the free trials will be up and available. And you can go on there, get your free trial, and check it out and make some money this week. So definitely urge you guys to do that, but let's just get into this first fight of the night here. Dion Barbosa, she's taking on Rain Guerrero, and this is a short notice fight for Barbosa. And Barbosa, she's 31. She's fighting out at King's MMA, so she has a really good gym behind her. And she's a former training partner. I don't know if she still spars with her, but she used to be a sparring partner of Chris Cyborg. And she's not taking the easy road. She had her first 4 fights in Brazil, but in those 4 fights, she picked up a win over Silva. She lost to Josiane Nunes, 2 girls that are now in the UFC. Her last 3 fights have been in the LFA, and her first fight in the United States in the LFA was against Jenna Bishop, and that was another short notice fight against a similar style to Rain Guerrero, even though I think Bishop is better at the style. And she did lose that fight in a close decision that could have went either way, but she's rebounded. She's won her last 2 fights in a row. She's kind of took a step down in competition for her last 2 fights, and they were more confidence-boosting wins. She had 2 losses in a row, and I think it was smart to give her those type of fights. But she's at about 5 days' notice for this, so hopefully she's stayed ready and in optimal shape. But Rain Guerrero, she's also 31. She fights at a War Training Center, which is in Texas, and she's actually the #1 ranked female fighter in Texas. She's 5-1. She hasn't been fighting very good competition, though. This is going to be the best opponent that we're going to see her against to date. Guerrero is on a 4-fight winning streak, and the fighter she was originally supposed to fight here was another tough girl, so the UFC is not giving her an easy matchup to try to get in to the company here, but she was the fighter that they were originally interested in, and Barbosa is a short notice opponent, so maybe that does give Guerrero a slight edge. But Guerrero is moving up a weight class. They're going to be fighting at 135 here, whereas Guerrero has fought at 135, but her optimal weight class is 125, and she was supposed to fight at 125 with her last matchup. But in terms of styles, you look at Rain Guerrero. On the feet, Guerrero is aggressive. She comes forward, she'll throw overhand, she'll throw 3-2s, and she's improved her feints and her head movement. Her defense overall has gotten better. She keeps her hands high, she'll try to bob and weave and throw big hooks, she'll attack the body. But her striking is primarily to close the gap and shoot the double. She pushes the pace, she'll keep the volume high. But her one loss, she struggled with her opponent's length and ability to throw rear counter crosses, and she ended up getting walked down as the fight went on, and her striking off the back foot was not very effective. Guerrero tends to square up sometimes when she pressures in also, and she can get hit fairly easily. She's a hittable girl. Her striking is high volume, but it's just sloppy, and she can overwhelm some opponents that aren't ready to deal with the pressure. But I do feel like Barbosa is the significantly better striker in the matchup. But when you look at Rain Guerrero's bread and butter, it's going to be in the wrestling and grappling. She's strong. She holds girls against the cage effectively. She has okay body locks and doubles. And on top, she's aggressive. She has heavy top pressure, good transition. She can control effectively from the mount. She has slick back takes. And skill-wise, I don't really think Guerrero is quite there yet, but She does have good ability to work from the top position, and she's gritty, well conditioned, and comes to fight. But Diane Barbosa, great athlete. She has very good speed, throws nice straight punches, nice 1-2s, 3-2s. She'll go to the body. When she tries to close the distance and go forward with combos, she's super dangerous. She can close the gap fast. She also likes to pressure and then use her speed to slide out of the way and come back with counters. Good accuracy, good power. She'll throw front kicks up the middle, knees up the middle. She throws some really hard and heavy kicks too, but I do wish she was a little bit more active with her kicks. She is hittable if fighters can get inside on her. If you pressure her, make it ugly, you can land, but Barbosa is very clean, slick. She's disciplined, she's composed. I've seen her turn up on girls and get them out of there, so she has killer instinct. And I think she's a little bit of a glass cannon. Not that she isn't tough, but I have seen her get hurt. She got dropped against Jenna Bishop, and her chin is a little bit questionable. But when you look at Barbosa as far as a grappler, she can match what Rain Guerrero has. She's a high-level judo player. She's a black belt in judo, and she is very hard to control in the clinch. She has good timing on the body lock. She can hit some big throws, and she gets in a half guard and just tries to hold girls down, work short shots. When you do get Barbosa down, which is tougher to do than it is said, she has an active guard. She uses her butterfly guard to push on the hips and get back up, and she's been able to get back up from under girls very quickly, and she was able to do it against Jenna Bishop multiple times, stand up from under her. And Jenna Bishop is a jiu-jitsu world champion, so I feel like her anti-grappling is good, on point. She did end up giving her back in the third round, and Bishop controlled her back for the rest of that round, but she never really put her in any danger. But Guerrero could potentially follow that blueprint. Short, stocky grappler, go in there, try to pressure, eat shots to give shots, find the chin of Barbosa, make her go backwards, and then try to get a couple takedowns. But I feel like skill-wise, athleticism-wise, Barbosa is close to the top 15. It's just going to come down to if she's in good enough shape here on short notice, and if Guerrero connects clean, can she hurt Barbosa? But if she can, Barbosa should dominate all facets, and I think she can hurt Guerrero too. I feel like her chance to win here is kind of small. She doesn't have that high-level grappling like a world champion level like Bishop, to where I think she's going to be able to hold down Barbosa. I don't think she's going to be able to really compete on the feet unless she lands right on the chin and can hurt her. And I feel like Barbosa is just a step ahead in every facet. Guerrero is tough, so I think it's going to be hard to finish her, but personally I'm going to go with Diane Barbosa via decision in this one, and I think she'll make it look pretty easy. And we're coming on to this next fight, and this is a really good fight. I'm actually intrigued to see how this goes down between Gene Silva and Kevin Vallejos. And you look at Gene Silva, he's 26. He's fighting out of Brazil. He's 10-2. He's on a 7-fight win streak, and he's currently training with the Fighting Nerds gym, who we just watched Carlos Prates look like an absolute monster on the Contender Series, and he trains out of the Fighting Nerds. Kyle Barallo is another fighter, undefeated in the UFC. He trains out of the Fighting Nerds, so they got something cooking out of that gym. But recently, Silva's been on a tear. His last 7 fights, he's finished in the first round, and only 2 of his fights have went to decision. He's 0-2 in those fights, so when he gets it done, it's been inside the distance. His competition level has been up and down. He's beaten some fighters with pretty good records and then fighters with shoddy records. So Tuesday is going to be a chance for him to prove to everyone that he's a UFC-level fighter. And you look at his style, Gene Silva's a slick striker. He has fast hands. He has good footwork, good movement. He has a wide-bladed stance, and he can move in and out of range quickly. He likes to carry his lead hand low and try to invite fighters to throw so he can counter. And it gives him an effective up jab. Style-wise, he'll dart in, dart out with body head attacks. He's fast, he's wild, but he is creative and effective. And he's hittable, but he's down to slug, and he's a very intense guy. He, on the inside, will also throw big elbows, knees. And recently, his aggressive striking style and creativity has been kind of too much for guys. He comes out intense, ready to exchange, and then also brings a craftiness and danger factor. And if you pressure him and make it ugly, he can stick and move, land some slick strikes off the back foot. If you allow him to be first, he'll open up and throw a myriad of attacks, and he's just tough to deal with. But sometimes he can get caught entering range hands down. He is a hittable guy. His chin is good, and I do think that he kind of gets tired and becomes more hittable, but so far he's been able to take it. He also is heavy on his lead leg. He does a pretty good job of checking kicks early, but just like with his defense with his headshots, he kind of slows down, stops checking as many kicks. And Silva's someone you kind of want to strike with at your own peril most of the time because he is dangerous, but he's also a little bit flawed. But I haven't seen too much grappling from Silva. He looks all right in the clinch. He seems fairly strong. He seems hard to control and take down in the clinch, but I haven't really seen guys shoot in on his legs yet. And he did catch a guillotine in a fight that I watched, but his grappling to me is largely still a question mark. And Kevin Vallejos, he's 21 years old. He's fighting out of Argentina. He's undefeated as a pro at 11-0. He's undefeated overall at 15-0 if you include his 4 amateur fights. He trains out of the Brothers of Life MMA gym. It's a gym that's still small, but it's gaining steam. They have multiple undefeated prospects. UFC fighter Francisco Prado, he now trains with the Goat Shed, but he used to train out of Brothers of Life MMA as well. And Vallejos, like some other Argentine fighters we've seen fight on the Contender Series this season, he's been fighting for Samurai Fight House, and he's actually the current Samurai Fight House featherweight champion. He's the former Samurai Fight House bantamweight champion. His last 5 fights have all been title fights, so he's been getting a lot of good experience. And in his last match, he defeated UFC veteran Eduardo Gregorio, who is obviously a high-level fighter. And he's been very active. This is going to be a 6th fight within 12 months. He is winning, finishing, looking dominant, so it's no reason for him to slow the pace. And if he can win on Tuesdays, he's going to become one of the youngest fighters on the roster. And Kevin Vallejos, he's calm and measured. He's a counterpuncher. More of a pot shotter. He's not much of a combination striker. He has power in his check hook, his right cross, his right overhand. He'll attack the body. And he's really fast, but he mostly just moves around and snipes you with one-shot attacks. He'll dig the body, and he has enough power to keep guys honest, but he doesn't necessarily have that power to knock you out with one punch. It's usually attrition or him working you to the body. And defensively, he holds his hands high. He's always moving. He's hard to hit. I do think if it becomes a fight on the inside, then it could go well for Silva. And Vallejos isn't as good defensively in a war type of fight, but I do feel like Vallejos, if he's smart, is going to mix in takedowns here and try to wear on Silva. He can mix it up. He has a good double leg. He catches kicks and get takedowns that way as well. And I've seen him use a guillotine to reverse takedowns, get on top, and he throws some hard ground and pounds. When Vallejos gets on top, he's pretty nasty. Most of his finishes are ground and pound wins. I feel like he could piece up Gene Silva on the feet, but Silva's durable, relentless, and if he makes it a war, it could become a 50-50 fight. If Vallejos can wrestle, avoid the guillotine, wear on Silva, then he could make it an easier night for him. So I think technically Kevin Vallejos has the boxes checked here. He has better footwork, better defense. His hands are better. Silva exposes himself to counters, which will be there all night for Vallejos. But if Vallejos gets tired, then I believe that Silva could make it a war and it could become interesting. But I don't expect Vallejos to get tired. He's young. He's in great shape. And I think he has the better wrestling too and can lean on that if need be. If he can't get Gene Silva down and Silva can absorb his power, then, like I said, it could become a 50-50 war. But I think that Vallejos is going to have enough power to keep Silva honest. I like the body work. I think he could get a couple takedowns. Either fighter could get knocked out in this one just with how they match up, but I'm going to predict a decision win for Kevin Vallejos where he mixes it up, shows plus skills across the board in a fun back-and-forth fight here. And moving on to this next fight, we got Chad Hinokin. He's taking on Dylan Butka, and this is a good one. Dylan Butka, he's stepping up on short notice here. He's fighting for the second time in about 10 days when he takes on Chad Hinokin on Tuesday. His last fight was a squash match. He fought at heavyweight. He weighed in at 207, and he was fighting a 2-4 fighter. He won in 1 minute and 47 seconds, didn't take any damage. And if he stayed in good shape and didn't have any injuries during that last camp, which I doubt he had even out of camp. I mean, fighting some random bum at heavyweight. He should almost be as good to go as if he had a full camp for this one, because he probably got in at least fight shape to fight that guy. And then now he's jumping into a fight at 185 where he's going to have to cut the weight, and he's probably, in my opinion, going to be in shape and ready to go. And you look at Butka, he's 23. He is training out of a smaller gym in Ohio, but he's 6-2, and he's been impressive. He's been a guy that dropped his first fight via third-round rear naked choke, but since then, he's come back and done really well. He went on a 5-fight win streak. He earned an LFA title shot. He fought a really high-level Russian guy and pushed him to a split decision. And he also, during that run, beat Wes Schultz, who's a really good wrestler, was an undefeated fighter. And, you know, he's a guy that, if he can win this fight, get into the UFC, losing that LFA title fight will be great experience for him, but it'll also be ancient history, and he'll be, you know, right where he wants to be. But he's going to have to get through Chad Hinokin, who's 33 years old. He's a South African fighter. He's 9-2. He trains out of one of the best, if not the best gym and most recognizable gym in South Africa, Fight Fit Militia. And he's been fighting in Brave CF recently. He's faced pretty good opposition. His first Brave CF fight came against Ikram Eliskarov, who has went down to 170, but we all know how good of a fighter he is. And Hinokin did push him to a split decision, so that was a pretty impressive loss. And he's rebounded after that. He won 2 fights in a row. He got a Brave title shot, which he came up short in that fight, got knocked out. And that fight happened in 2019. And Hinokin hasn't been very active. He's only been fighting one time a year, but he's 3-0 since that fight. And this is going to be his first fight of 2023. He had been fighting kind of lower-level guys, but he did beat an 11-1 fighter in his last fight. So at 33 years old, this is Hinokin's last chance to get a UFC contract. So he's likely going to have to fight really hard here, have a great performance to cash in on this opportunity, because Dana doesn't really like signing these older guys. But Dylan Butka, he's an absolute beast, extremely explosive, physical, he's aggressive. Style-wise, Butka is just a grinder, closes distance, looks to hit the takedown, maul you, pushes a crazy pace, he has exceptional cardio. He can wrestle hard for 25 minutes. His striking isn't the best, but he's mobile. He's fast for the weight class. He can pull fighters into 1-2s, left hooks. He has decent kicks as well. He isn't really a great striker, but he isn't bad either, and he's growing more and more comfortable on the feet every time out there. He's a guy that wants to be all the way in or all the way out, use his speed, use the threat of his wrestling, and that makes his striking work. His fight with Bakov shows that he's definitely getting better on his feet quickly. And wrestling-wise, he closes the gap. He likes to clinch. He could circle to the back and hit big slams, good doubles against the cage. Once he gets on top, he has really good control, ground and pound, back takes. He could finish fights with submissions or ground and pound. And he's tough to take down and tough to hold down. He can defend takedowns well. He can scramble back up to his feet. He can survive in bad positions. We've seen him do that. And his cardio holds up in that type of fight. And I think that could be the difference maker against Chad Hinokin. But Chad Hinokin, he's a striker. He's tall. He's rangy. He throws decent kicks. He stands upright, so his kicks are fast. But he also isn't really the most explosive or fast guy anyways. He does throw some straight punches, some overhands. He could just be a little bit slow, plotty. When he connects, he does do damage, but his striking is kind of serviceable at best. And Hinokin is a good wrestler. He has good level changes, really fast. He can push you against the cage, take you down there. His length helps him get takedowns. But against Butka, maybe he'll get a takedown or two, but I don't see him having really too much success holding down Butka. And once Butka starts to defend takedowns, I've seen Hinokin get really tired when fighters could stuff his shots. And Hinokin's takedown defense is good, but he can get stalled out against the cage, and as he starts to get tired, he can start to get taken down more and more. I expect Butka probably to dominate this fight, honestly. I think the line should be a little bit wider. I would line Butka at like a -200, because I just feel like he's going to stuff the early takedowns, maybe survive a bit of a good start from Hinokin, and then I think he's going to be able to dominate the fight. I think he'll be able to get some clinch control. He'll be able to get a couple takedowns. I think he'll dominate on the feet. I think Hinokin will slow down. I think even in the stand-up, Hinokin is a bit slow, and Butka could have him covered if he gets him a little bit tired, and it could be a very competitive striking fight too. So I'm going to say Butka wins via decision. He could finish Hinokin, but Hinokin's only been stopped one time. He has a lot of experience, and I think it's more likely that it's a decision fight. So I'm going to go with Dylan Butka to win via decision here. And moving on to this next fight, we got Serhi Sidi. He's taking on Ramon Tavares. And this is a great fight right here. Serhi Sidi, he's 27 years old. He's fighting out of Canada. Trains out of a small gym named Burlington Training Center. He used to also train out of Parabellum, which is a more known and better gym over there in Canada. And Burlington Training Center, I don't know if he owns the gym, but he's a striking coach there. And they don't even have a Tapology page. They're kind of branded as a family fitness gym. So hopefully City is getting the requisite training. He's cross-training or doing something. But, it doesn't seem like it's affected him too much. He's 9-1 in his career. All his fights have been in Canada. He's fought for BTC Promotions and BFL, which are the two biggest promotions in Canada, or two of the biggest promotions in Canada. And he's been the reigning and defending champion of BFL for a couple years now. He won the bantamweight title in September of 2021. He's defended the belt 4 times. So he's proven himself as one of the best in Canada, if not the best bantamweight right now. His only loss came to Matteo Vogel, who we just saw in the Contender Series last week. At 27, he's close to hitting his prime, and a win here, he could be entering the UFC at a perfect time. And when you look at his style, sir, you see he's a tall, long, and lanky fighter. He's 5'11", and I don't know exactly how tall Ramon Tavares is, but I think C will probably be 3 or 4 inches taller. C is also long, so he's probably going to have a reach advantage, and he's very aggressive. He pressures. He's really active. He'll switch stance, tries to cut the cage off, stay in your face, and I would argue C doesn't really fight long, which I hate seeing tall fighters not fight long, but he has a great chin. He makes it a war, throws a lot of round kicks, front kicks. When he does get inside, he lets his hands go. It looks like he throws heavy. He has some flying knees, so he'll throw some dangerous, creative attacks. And his pressure can break guys, get them tired, and then at that point, the speed differential between him and his opponents even up, and he can just use his array of attacks and his length and kind of just his size to beat fighters up. He is significantly slower than Tavares here, though, and he's going to have to eat some hard counters early and try to wear on Tavares and then get on the inside, make it his kind of fight, and take over late. If you watch series, you see he's lost to Matteo Vogel. He got out-wrestled. He gave his back multiple times. He's a squirmy guy with good ability to fight hands, so he was able to escape some bad positions, but he just couldn't really stop the takedowns and really wasn't too competitive in the grappling. He showed toughness, but that was about it. This fight with Tavares, there isn't really going to be a takedown threat or much of a submission threat either, I don't believe. Tavares does have 3 submission wins, but I don't really rate him as the greatest grappler from what I've seen. I doubt he tries to wrestle. If Tavares does have wrestling skills, I don't know about though. C's wrestling defense did look really bad, but in this fight, C is the bigger guy. He probably has the better offensive wrestling and grappling, I'd say. He doesn't really look for takedowns, but if he does have an opponent that crashes into the clinch or he can back him up, then he will get some clinch takedowns. He's pretty solid on top, and if he can get top position, he's pretty dominant, but I haven't really seen Tavares off his back or his takedown defense to comment too much on how he would defend that or how he would look off bottom, but for Tavares, he's 29 years old. He's fighting out of Jacksonville, Florida. He's representing Bulldog Boxing Gym, which is a small gym, but it's also recently got another guy in the UFC in Austin Lane. And Austin Lane actually fights this weekend, I believe. And Tavares had all of his fights, both amateur and pro, in the Combat Night promotion, who throws all their shows in Florida. He's currently the Combat Night Pro Bantamweight champion, and he's 8-1 overall. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. The level of competition he's been fighting has been low. His last victory came over a 5-5 opponent. He did fight a couple of name guys. He fought Charles Crazy Horse Bennett, who, he's kind of in Bob Sapp territory, a free win at this point. He's currently on a 20-fight losing streak. He did fight Martin Day, that was Martin Day's first fight after getting cut from the UFC off of a layoff, and he submitted Martin Day pretty quick, which is fairly impressive, but Martin Day is 8-6, and it's kind of not the best win, not the worst win. On paper, Tavares' resume is weak for sure. Even his one pro loss, he got knocked out by a 5-5 fighter in 34 seconds. But what you've done in the past doesn't matter. And if he could put on a dominant performance Tuesday, Dana White's probably going to sign him. So Tavares is a southpaw boxer. He's getting better every fight we see him. He has great footwork. He can cut the cage off, close the distance, make it a phone booth fight really, really effectively. He has fast hands, really exceptional feints. His crosses are beautiful, super sharp and clean. He likes to throw 1-2s, 1-1-2s. He'll feint the lead hand and close the gap. And if fighters stick in the pocket with him, super slick. He lands pullback left crosses, lead right hooks, left uppercuts. He attacks the body. And he's developing a good kicking game, too. He has hard left kicks to all parts of the body. His kicking defense isn't the greatest. He can eat low kicks. And if opponents can't keep him at kicking range, he has had some issues in the past. I wish I had a bit more information about Tavares because I don't know his height or his reach, but his striking looks pretty technically impressive, and he's very composed. He stays disciplined. You see him drop guys and summon them back up to their feet. He doesn't get wild, and you have to make it ugly to beat Tavares. If it's a pretty striking fight, he's going to beat you 9 times out of 10. But he isn't a wrestler, someone who looks for takedowns in any of the fights that I've seen. I have seen takedown defense against the cage look bad in certain fights, but better in more recent fights. He got taken down a couple times in 2020 against a guy that was 2-6, but in a fight against Martin Day in 2022, he defended the takedowns and then locked in a really, really fast standing guillotine and used that to finish the fight. His last fight, he stopped a couple takedowns, but his opponent was really bad and they were very telegraphed. Tavares is definitely someone who's going to want to keep it standing and knock out Sijara here, but I don't really know too much about his jiu-jitsu or takedown defense, but this is a great stylistic clash. Tavares is much faster. He has way better boxing. I think he'll piece up Sijara early, but if Sijara could walk through it, put his own damage on Tavares, use his length, and maybe he could start to sway it down the stretch. Tavares is clean, composed, and he hits pretty accurate, so I think he'll likely have the edge if this is a 15-minute striking fight or get the knockout in the first or second. And I don't know how much about Tavares' grappling and wrestling, like I said, but if Sijara wins, I think he's going to expose that as being a weak point for Tavares. Sijara is probably the more well-rounded guy, and he's definitely more proven. He's beaten better competition. I think personally that Tavares is the more skilled fighter, so I'm going to predict him to get the knockout win or a dominant decision. It could be tough down the stretch, but I see him being tough and digging deep if need be. And I'm basing this pick more on the fighter that I believe is more skilled, even though he hasn't fought the competition that his opponent has. But I'm going to say Tavares gets a second-round knockout in this one and wins as the underdog. And now we got the main event. This seems kind of like a squash match to me. We got a big favorite in Bruno Lopez, who's an undefeated 30-year-old Brazilian fighter. He's 11-0. Since going pro, he hasn't lost in almost 10 years. And his last fight, he captured the LFA light heavyweight championship. In terms of competition level, though, his last couple fights, he's fought decent fighters, but he hasn't really fought many good opponents over his career. Brenton Rivera is definitely, on paper, one of the better fighters that Lopez will have fought to date. If Lopez looks good here, I definitely think he'll get signed because I feel like he's already a pretty competitive 205er in the weight class. And he hasn't fought in about a year, so we'll see if that affects him, but I think he'll be ready to go. And his opponent, Brenton Rivera, he's 27 years old. He's 14-5. He's also Brazilian. He trained with Elevo Thai, which is a well-known high-level gym. And he's had all but 2 of his 20 fights in Brazil. 2 of them, he went to Russia to fight. He went 0-2. He tested himself appropriately, though. He's fought some solid guys, and he's gotten some solid victories. Currently, Ribeiro has 2 wins in a row. He won the Shuto Brazil title in his last fight. So now he's fighting in a champion versus champion fight, and the winner is probably going to get a UFC contract. And when you look at Bruno Lopez, fighting style-wise, Bruno Lopez is a fun fighter to watch. He comes forward with the Muay Thai style, great pressure, excellent composure. He throws really nice hand combinations, slips and rips really well. He goes body head, great feints. He throws long combos, which you don't really see from heavyweights. He'll pick his shots really effectively. His defense is on point. and his striking is on another level in comparison to Brenton Rivera. He also has pretty good kicks. He'll throw some nasty elbows. He's primarily a hands fighter, but he can mix it up and use some other weapons. And he also has good clinch control. He has pretty good level changes and double legs, and when he gets on top, he's pretty nasty. I think he could dominate from top position, dominate on the feet. And Brenton Rivera is a good athlete. He's long and lanky. He has some fast straight punches, but his striking is rudimentary. He just brawls. His chin is also really bad, and he needs to get this fight to the mat if he's gonna have a chance outside of just landing a wild punch. And Rivera is a dangerous grappler. He has good front chokes. If he can get on top, he has good ground and pound. But off of his back, he looks really weak. His last fight, he almost got finished on the ground and only was able to turn it around and get the finish on his opponent because his opponent gassed out. But Rivera has kind of shown a killer be killed style, but he's a flawed fighter. I don't really feel like he's the most impressive guy. I don't know why he got the call to be on the Contender Series, honestly. Bruno Lopez, I think, should pick up the win, get the knockout in the first round. I just feel like he's far superior. I feel like Rivera's chin is not good, and his defense when he gets hurt or his reactions aren't good either. So I got to go with Bruno Lopez, and I think he's going to look dominant, get the win in the first round, and get the contract. So give me Bruno Lopez, and I think he could come into the UFC and be competitive with some decent guys, maybe some guys right outside the top 15 right away. So thanks for watching, guys. That was the full card breakdown for Dana White Contender Series 2023 Week 5. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm going to be doing the free trials on Patreon.com for all my tiers. So if you go over there, you're going to get 30 days free. That's going to be courtesy of the pay-per-view this weekend. You can get access to the UFC if you go there before the fights, get access to my bets, breakdowns for that, and I'll have other content, more bets, more breakdowns, drop it throughout the week and drop it throughout the month that you have free. So risk-free, go try it, support the channel, and make yourself some money. And if you watch this full video up till now, I really appreciate it. Hit the like button, put a comment down below. It really helps me get in the algorithm, helps me get more views and things like that. And I know sometimes I put the videos out too late in the week, and people put the video out hella before me, a lot of people. But yeah, man, I feel like I still give great information. This one I tried to put out earlier, so hopefully more people watch it. And thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be back with the UFC breakdown coming up soon. And besides that, just stay plugged into the channel.